Hello, welcome back to another episode of 0 to 60, and I gotta be honest, I didn't follow the instructions on the turbo kit. Now, because I'm using the Turbo Smart wastegates, and Adam's instructions are all based around let me show you guys, he has based them around the tile wastegates. And you can see here, he's using banjo fittings to direct the wastegate lines away from everything because we're going to be tight for space. Now, because I'm using the Turbo Smart, I thought I better just make sure that they're going to work, that they're not going to foul on anything, and make sure that we can clock them in a way that clears everything. Now, to do that, I had to fit the third part of the manifold, this section here. And when I did that, it didn't fit. I was having issues, and I'll put some pictures up, but you can see that is the front section of the manifold, this is the rear section of the manifold, and this is the third or upper section of the manifold here. And basically, this all needs to be pretty damn lined up precisely, like within a millimeter, or else it just doesn't work properly. These are properly sealed, stepped V-bands, and obviously it's just got to be right. And unfortunately, mine wasn't right. So I was trying to connect this third piece in, and we're about a mil off, or whichever one you connect. If you connect this one, that one's a mil off. If you connect that one, that one's a mil off. And there was no way. I was kind of hoping that you could sort of have them loose and then tighten them up and they'll fall into place, but there was just too much tension, and I need to work out what the hell was going on. Now, me, being the gypsy that I am, and I'm sure most of you that are watching this are already aware of it, I was using aftermarket gaskets. I was using the L-ring gaskets on the manifold. Now, I've used these a lot, and on twin turbos, not a problem. Obviously, you can clock each of the downpipes. If there are any sort of fitment variations on where the turbos actually sit into the head, it's not a problem on twin turbo cars. But this, the front and the rear bank, has to line up perfectly, and with the L-rings, it wasn't working. Now, it was a long weekend. I couldn't get genuine gaskets, but I had some Chinese ones. So I had some AliExpress special Chinese exhaust gaskets, and I thought, I'll just try them. And I did, and it lined up perfectly. Now, because it lined up, I sort of did the V-bands up, made sure everything was going to be fine, and I've left it. And that's not the way that Adam's instructions say to do it, but I'm going to try and move forwards with it as it is. You can see I have the water pump in place with the spacers. Now, I've done that just to try and see where everything's going to sit, and if the wastegate's going to clear. Well, the wastegate dump is going to clear everything because it actually comes down along here. And then we've also got issues with the wastegate nipples. I don't know if that's the right word. Can you guys see this? Sorry, never enough light. So we've also got issues with the wastegate nipples. Oh man, I can't see. So those little hose connections there, we've got to make sure that they don't foul on the oil drain or anything else that's going on. So, but I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to get away with the Turbo Smarts. I won't know for sure until I get the front wastegate, or Bank 1's wastegate, which actually sits further back than Bank 2. But I think we can move forwards. So even though I've sort of done a few steps out of sync, let's keep going. Let's keep going. But top tip, don't use the L-ring gaskets if you're trying to fit one of these three-piece manifolds, because it didn't want to work. And man, I tried. I tensioned and untensioned, and I just could not get them to line up close enough. But with the AliExpress exhaust manifold gaskets, good to go. Right, so the next thing I need to do, following the instructions properly. So you have the manifold bolted on. Now the next thing to do is connect the oil drain. We've done that. I'm still not 100% sure that this is the best location. I'd kind of like this to sort of sit about there. Hopefully you guys can see that. But then we've got about 10 mil to the manifold there, and we'll work out where it's going to run up the top. Clears the wastegate there. We'll worry about it later on. So I'm going to leave this one loose, and we'll see the best place to position that. I was originally going to come out and then sort of go forwards, get away from all the heat, but I think we then run into issues with the wastegate nipples. Sorry, guys, the camera's not working today. Then we run issues with the wastegate nipples, and also we've got this coolant pipe that comes down. I'm going to leave the oil drain there, and hopefully we can just sort of clear everything when it's all in. It's going to be tight, though. It's so tight, and you have to have everything at the front so that the steering rack can sort of come up through here. Oh, man, that's where that's going to sit. It's going to be so tight. The downpipe has to go through that gap. Oh well. All right, let's see if we can get it on today. So, water pump's on, oil drain's on. What was next? What was next? Water pump. Ah, just a note. We do have 2 aluminium spacers, spacing the water pump out. That clears the oil drain there. That is something that I haven't seen on many other turbo kits. But anyway, just so you guys know. And so once the water pump is on, it actually says to connect the second U-pipe, which is this pipe here. And that is going to go in this little space here. All right, I'm going to get that connected. I'm going to need 2 hands. See, this is where we're going to get tight for those airlines. All right, I'll be back in a second. Okay, so we have the coolant pipe now connected. I don't know what to call it really, but it's now connected to the new coolant pipe that comes out of the block. And it goes to that location and then down into the water pump. Hopefully you can see just there, where originally it would come sort of here, and then there was that right angle piece that goes into the water pump. So we're actually connected in an OEM way. You can see we've got one nipple coming off that rear wastegate, although it sits at the front, and then we've got the other nipple there, which I think we're going to have enough clearance with the line. So we should be okay without needing the banjo fittings like the tile setup. We still don't know how this one's going to go. Next thing on the instruction list is to hook up the diesel coolant reservoir. And to do that, we need to basically modify this piece here, which normally goes to the 335 coolant reservoir on the right-hand side of the vehicle. And to get that off, we need to cut... Yeah, it is this hose here. So I'm going to, with a cut-off wheel, just grind that away and remove this section. All right, so that is the hose cut off. Now, unfortunately, before I cut it, I didn't actually look at the next step, which is this part here. I thought we were only using sort of this section to there. I didn't realize we had to reuse that part as well. I thought that hose was going to go straight onto that fitting there, which we have cut off. Unfortunately, I do need to reuse it, and I've probably cut it a little bit too deep, or deeper than I would have if I knew I was going to reuse it anyway. I was being just a bit lazy and trying to film at the same time. Hopefully we get away with it. But first things first, we need to cut this, which is awesome to do one-handed. We need to cut that section just there. I'm going to use a razor blade because I don't have proper hose cutters. I'll get that cut and I'll cut it there and we'll join it onto that hose, which is supplied in the kit. Well, I think it's about 6 and a bit hours since I last spoke to the camera. Yeah, I'll just cut that hose, join those 2 bits, and we'll be good to go. I didn't really got a plan. So I did make a bit of a mistake. Well, not a mistake. I kind of forgot that you need a different charge pipe when you do the 335D relocation. Luckily, I've got a single turbo parts car sitting just out the front that I've gone and borrowed the charge pipe from. So that is O'Reilly's charge pipe. I'm going to have to order a VRSF one just so that we get one for this car. However, when I fitted the intercooler and the oil cooler to this car many, many years ago, it's still ingrained in my brain about the lack of space in this area just here. So I was really concerned about where we're going to route the coolant line and basically just the best way to do it. So O'Reilly's coolant line, and keep in mind Dan from Simply Tuning did that I think in 2015 or 16, so we did it a long time ago. It sort of loops up over here and then it goes down and then it comes back up to join the hose, which works okay, except for when you want to bleed the coolant system or fill the cooling system, because you basically, the coolant goes in the reservoir and then it goes up over the hump, then it goes down a big U shape and then it goes back into the, I don't even know if you guys will be able to see it. You might be able to see it. It goes back into the thermostat. Yeah, it is the thermostat down there. And that's how coolant gets into the cooling system. It takes like an hour, that one time that I changed the coolant on O'Reilly when we did the water pump. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass. So what I wanted to try and do with this one is have the neatest route from the reservoir straight down to the thermostat. So there was no, we've got a little bit of a raise here, but I just wanted to be sort of OEM-like in the way that it just goes straight down to the thermostat, like the factory one does on that side. And yeah, it took me a little while. So JMC provide a straight joiner. I don't know where I did with it. I think I showed you guys in the other clip, but it was a while ago. And all I've done, I've replaced the straight joiner with a right angle one. So it comes out of that hose there. And hopefully you can see it. And I've just got it cable tied to the air conditioning line. And then it joins, hopefully you can see it, just in there. That's the other straight join down there. Is the GoPro picking it up? Yes, it is. Nice and simple. However, it took me a little while. I had to go in town and get that joiner. And then I was test fitting all of the charge pipe system. And I'm going to have to use O'Reilly's charge pipe. So this is my original J pipe. That come with my AliExpress intercooler that I purchased, again, I think it was 2019 or 2020, the 7-inch one. Now, unfortunately, with the 335D charge pipe, which is now about 2 or 3 inches higher, the other one would basically sit down on these hoses, the flat one. You can see that I wasn't a complete knobhead. I did buy a new blow-off valve charge pipe, but this is just for a normal car, not one with the power steering and the diesel reservoir here. I hope my words aren't too twisted. It's been a stressful day. Anyway, that's the blow-off valve that I'm going to use, but I'm going to have to get another charge pipe. Anyway, trying to get it all to work. It won't work with my J-pipe. I've got to use O'Reilly's J-pipe, which is a custom thing. Now, interestingly, when I fitted the 7-inch intercooler to the Flomax car a couple of months ago, its J-pipe is more of a J. So mine is just that there, where the Flomax one comes down to about here. So one end is longer than the other. And if I had the Flomax charge pipe, J-pipe, whatever the hell they're called, it would work with this system. But if you're going to be doing this and you go into the 335D charge pipe, these shorter J pipes will not work. You need a longer J pipe, something like this. Top tip, don't forget that when you're buying the parts for your single turbo kit. Now, in the instructions, Adam, JMC, once you've fitted this coolant line, he says fill the coolant tank up and basically pressure test, and you want to make sure you got no leaks. He did actually say connect the turbo. I just had some spare fittings, which I've sort of jerry-rigged to close the loop where the turbo would go, and I bled the cooling system, and while I was bleeding it, this happened. Why is that leaking? Yeah, so don't know why. Top radiator hose wouldn't seal again. Now, this isn't the original one. I did buy this, I think 2020, 2019, I don't know. That is a new one, but for some reason it was just not sealing on that part just there. In fact, if my memory serves me correctly, and some of you guys might remember as well, when I first filled the cooling system in this car, when I first fitted the 17Ts, I remember that fitting was leaking. But anyway, don't know. It is an aftermarket one. I think it is a Victor Rains. It's the same brand as this one. It's a Rain. I remember that. Anyway, so luckily we keep the top radiator hoses in stock on the 0 to 60 store. So I went and grabbed one of them, fix that problem, pressurize the cooling system, and lo and behold, go underneath to make sure that all the new lines aren't leaking and it's dripping coolant from down at the bottom. So you can't actually see right now. You might be able to see. Let me play the clip. Man, this is punishing me today. So I saw that and I sort of freaked out a little bit. Need to work out where that's coming from. Come around to the front to try and work it out, and water is running down the top of the block in the head there. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not good. We've got a coolant leak out of the head. Kept looking. Then I noticed that it was actually dripping off this screw, and eventually found that it was just down in there, and I'll play the little clip. Well, there you go. I had no idea that was a problem. Yeah, shit, it is pissing out of there. So my oil filter housing gasket is also leaking coolant. My God, today has not gone to plan. Quite the opposite of what you saw 2 days ago, or 2 videos ago. So yeah, we've gone from everything going smoothly to everything going wrong, but hey, it is an N54, and this is what separates the boys from the men. We don't give up, we sort these problems out, we work through it, and then we make a silly video on the internet when it all works. Right, so moving forwards, I really wanted to get the turbo on and do a first start in this video, but it's not going to happen today. I think what I'm going to have to do is do the oil filter housing gasket. Now, I knew it was leaking oil, but I was thinking I'll just do it. I was focusing on getting the turbo system done. I thought I'll do the oil filter housing gasket later. However, I'm going to get that done properly because it's leaking coolant quite badly, and I do want to properly pressure test the system. It lost about 5 psi, so it went from 15 psi to 10 psi in about 30 seconds, so there's a fair bit leaking out of there. Need to get that sorted. I've also been putting off fitting the aftermarket oil cooler because I don't really want to take the new front bar off. But I think what I'm going to do tomorrow, it's time now, it's coming up 6 o'clock. I think tomorrow what I'm going to do is fit the oil cooler, replace the oil filter housing gasket, the oil cooler gasket, and yeah, I think just get on top of a bit of maintenance. So it's going to put back the start video, but I think we just got to do it properly. So yeah, won't be a video tomorrow, but I'll go and edit this now, and I'll come back and I'll start working on getting these coolant leaks fixed. Couldn't believe it. 2 coolant leaks, not related to anything that I've touched. I've never put coolant in this car, not that I can remember. It had a lot of coolant in it when I drained it the other day. So yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. It's funny how these things comes at the best times, but at least I found it now and not when everything is put back on the car. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Things to take away. Don't use the L-ring exhaust gaskets. They are problematic. Well, they seem to be for me. And I'll put up a clip here, and I think what may be amplifying the issue, because they are tapered. Well, they were more tapered than my Chinese ones, put it that way. And I think the Chinese gaskets are actually a better copy than the L-ring ones, or Erling, whatever they are. That taper may also amplify an alignment issue with these manifolds, because the manifolds are so heavy. I don't know what Adam's made them out of, but it's like the heaviest material known to man. They hang off, and they'll obviously that taper will give it a little bit more play before you get the nuts tightened up. And maybe just not having that taper is why the Chinese ones lined up perfectly and these ones ended up bolting on a bit of an angle. I don't know. It worked with the Chinese ones. I assume it'll work with genuine. I'm pretty sure Adam used genuine. Guys, other than that, that's the coolant pipe. What a crappy video. I know there's not much getting done, but this is the reality. One thing I will say, positioning the coolant pipe there over to the 335D tank. No airlocks, no nothing. I smashed, I think, about 8 litres of coolant straight in it, and it just sucked it in like a factory system. There were no airlocks, there was no bleeding. Doing it like that works really, really well. Happy with that. Gonna have to sort the charge pipe. Oh, if you've made it this far, I bought a tile blow-off valve charge pipe, because obviously we're getting rid of the twin diverters. This came up for a good price. It was actually Tim, a subscriber. He did me a brilliant deal on it. It was nearly free. It was that cheap. Thank you very much, Tim. But now I've seen the Turbo Smart one from O'Reilly. Which one do you think I should run? Tile or Turbo Smart? Let me know your thoughts below. I'm kind of leaning towards Turbo Smart. I don't know why I like Turbo Smart. I think they're a bit louder than the tiles. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. You'll see me in the next day or two, and hopefully the next video will be the first start of this turbo. Whew. Catch you tomorrow. Or whenever I do it. Peace.